everyone, and welcome to Connect with Evie. My name is Evelyn, and I'm your source for tips and tricks about every secret nook and cranny in Objectif Lune's flagship product. In today's episode, what we are going to explore is the preprocessor. This is actually a request from one of our clients, Pete, who wanted to get a little bit more technical about the preprocessor and what we can do inside of it, especially using the preprocessor scripts. Now, we've already kind of covered the preprocessors in the normal online tutorials on learn.objectiflune.com, but there's a couple of very important details and actually a few updates to the preprocessor step in DataMapper that warrant going a bit more in depth. The first thing that we can do with a preprocessor script is actually to convert one file format to another. One of the biggest uses of this is the conversion of JSON to XML. I have here an example of a JSON structure, which can be obtained from a JSON file from a database. It can be sent via a POST request, and then we need to process it. So what I'll do is I'll actually create a new file in Notepad, and I'm going to save that inside of a file on my disk. And what we are going to do is example, and we're going to load this as an XML file, and then we're going to use the preprocessor to convert it. So opening Connect here, I'm going to do XML, and I'm actually going to circumvent the filtering just to be able to load it and do this. Now, of course, the XML viewer will not be able to see it. That is perfectly normal. So we are going to go and add the new preprocessor right in here. So that's JSON to XML. And the actual script to do this is on learn.objectiflune.com in the how-tos, and it's using preprocessors in DataMapper. This is the example code that I show in there that you can use directly. Essentially what this code does is this function here converts the JSON type structure of the object into valid XML, adding the opening and closing brackets, adding CData where necessary, converting all the character formats to the appropriate one, etc., etc. And then this code at the bottom here actually opens the JSON file that is the real data file and converts it into the actual file that we can use. So Open Text Writer and Open Text Reader here, as well as the copy file, are all API functions from the DataMapper module. Unfortunately, these features of the API are not actually publicized in the help files. I hope that this will be available soon. In the meantime, this will work as in, and it is available on learn.objectiflune.com for you to go and see. Once you've added a preprocessor, when you hit this little apply button, it will actually run that preprocessor. You have to click on this when you're in the DataMapper so that if you have a lot of different preprocessors, it doesn't actually run them every time you load it. In normal functioning, any preprocessor that is checked will run when that data mapping configuration is called. So this is the first example of using the preprocessors, and this was the conversion. The next thing I want to talk about is both the postprocessor as well as the specific properties, because the actual properties here are somewhat important in a lot of things that you may want to do. The fixed automation properties are essentially just more of a debug tool that you can go ahead and fill in default values for the built-in static automation properties. So job infos, process name, original file name, and task index. Those are information and data bits coming from workflow, and these are filled in automatically when the workflow runs. The default value is only if you want to troubleshoot or debug your data mapping and document right in here. The more interesting one is, of course, the properties that you can put in. There's one thing that I want to do right now, and it's add one entire data property, and I will call it XML export file path. And the reason I'm putting this is that in the postprocessor, we are going to create a post-processing script here, and we're going to call it data model to XML. As you might have realized, I've loaded a different data model, a different data mapping configuration, because I want to show you one very awesome trick, which is the conversion of the data model records, all of the records here, into a proper XML file. This could also be a CSV, it could also be a text file. That's the kind of thing that you can do here. Essentially, it gets the XML export file path, opens it as a text file, and writes the records directly into it. Now, I haven't published this actual code anywhere. The reason for it is currently it only supports string values, so I'm going to have to make sure that it supports currency and dates and all of that. At the moment, only text is supported, and I will actually post that on the how-tos as soon as it's available. And when I hit that little apply, what this is going to do is it's going to create an actual file that I'm going to be able to open. So this created file.xml, which is exactly what I had. Edit with my Notepad application, and I have the whole record set. Now, one thing though is that right here it's only executing for this particular record because it's in debug mode. I will explain how to run it for the whole thing inside the how-to when we get there. Now, the last thing that I want to show you is a relatively technical and complex part of the data mapping configuration, but nonetheless one of the most powerful tools at your disposal, because the thing is, we're using JavaScript, and there is a whole lot of JavaScript available on the internet, especially as libraries and modules. Now, I'm not going to tell you that you can use every single library out there. What I can tell you is that there's a couple of powerful libraries that are available right straight off the box that you can use straight up. I am going to try to get a list published of a lot of very useful libraries, but I'm going to show you one, and then you can maybe infer what you can also use on your own from that one library. The one I want to show you is moment.js. Moment is a library that can parse and output dates and times in basically any format and any locale. Connect already does that with the locale feature. However, it does not let you read data directly from that. But it is something that moment.js can actually do. So how do we use it inside of the data mapper? Well, you click on download here. Actually, right-click download works a lot better. So I'm going to save this file and put it in my downloads. And I'm going to load directly here from the external JS library the moment.js file. And once this library is loaded, we can use it anywhere inside of the connect data mapper regardless of where we are. That is in the preprocessor as well as in any action task or extraction, JavaScript extractions. All of these work. So how does Moment work? Well, the documentation here is exactly what you would be able to use. So for instance, let me just grab Moment. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to add a little extract step or extract field here, plus on the extract field. And if I do this, you can see it says 4 years ago because 2012 was 4 years ago. And if I put a date that's a little closer, 16, let's say May, 3 months ago. Now, of course, this is actually hard-coded, but I can really use the parse function that I showed you earlier, and I'll be able to switch that. And what I can do is I can actually remove the date and even the format, because moment.js is actually really smart about reading dates. And it's going to say 3 years ago. If I remove the from now here, so if I want to format it in a different way, I would just say format, and I could say this sort of format. And I would get the actual date here. Now again, this is something that you can do in Designer up to a certain point, but you can't grab from timestamps, and you cannot be as powerful as moment.js, which can be used to read text dates, which the So why is this important in the context of data mapper? Because data mapper can read dates like this, the month, day, year format, no problem. But if it's a text date, it cannot read localed text date. If I have a date in French here, it's not going to be able to read it. If it says 1er décembre 1995, it will not be able to read it. Moment can. So as you can see, this very little unassuming window packs a lot of punch if you know where to look. Moment.js is but one of many countless libraries that you could possibly use. Little rule of thumb, if the library is a jQuery, jQuery plugin, Bootstrap, anything that's front-end frameworks, it will not work here. This is a back-end system, so things that can be used in Node.js, for example, might work here. We aren't up to date on the latest and greatest of JavaScript. We don't support ECMA script 6, for example. However, a lot of these libraries are backwards compatible. They will be able to be used in the data mapping configuration. So this is it for today's Connect with Evie. I hope you learned something new today. If you have any questions, comments, something you would want for me to talk about, like this subject today, please don't hesitate to contact me on Twitter or comment below. Subscribe if you want to be advised of any new videos that come out. Like the video if you do. I love those thumbs up. And as usual, see you in a few clicks.